Hello class, this is your teacher Mr. McDougall with your next Photoshop tutorial. In this one we are going to start blending text with subjects. In the previous lesson we talked about blending it with surfaces. Now we're going to learn how to weave it through subjects, kind of like this. We're going to put text on the screen and have subjects interacting with it, going either in front or behind it. So that is the lesson for today. 514, text weaving. As usual, download today's exercise files so you can practice and follow along. I won't walk you through that, but pause the video now if you have to, download the files, put them in a folder, and open all of them up in Photoshop. So pause the video if you need to get to that point, and then join us here. I will delete these for right now so I can start at the beginning, start fresh. We'll start with this one, text 01. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to try to edit as non-destructively as possible. There's going to be one bit of destructive editing, but the rest of it we're going to try to be non-destructive so we can change anything that we need to if we wanted to. So the first thing for non-destructive editing is we're going to duplicate the background layer. So this background layer, duplicate it with the shortcut Control-J. That will create layer 1, so now we have a copy. These two layers are exactly the same because we're going to edit this one, but we don't want anything to happen to the background. So the first thing you're going to do is select out the subject. So let's jump back into our Quick Select tool. As I mentioned, we will be using the Quick Select tool a lot. So grab your Quick Select tool and do your best to select our subject nice and clean. Just like that, going through it. I'm zooming in and making my brush smaller as I need to, as I go through it. Making sure you're zooming in to make sure all of it gets selected. We don't miss any specific parts, and we clean up right here. So I have to clean this part up right there. Selected too much. Make sure I get the shoe. So make sure you're taking your time. I'm doing this with you, so you take your time. You don't have to zoom into a microscopic level like this, but zoom in close enough to where you can just see that you need to clean up the line a little bit. So I need to clean this part up too. There we go. That's looking good. Line looks good. We will clean up the hair with our select and mask. So if you don't get every strand of hair, that's okay. We talked about select and mask in the previous lesson. So we will clean that up when we get to it. There we go. Any of the edges that are not super sharp, those can be cleaned up as well with select and mask. So that's why we do this as a quick selection, to get a rough selection at first and then clean it up later. Good. Make sure you're taking your time. I'm able to do this a little bit faster because I have a lot of experience with this, but it's okay for you to still be getting the hang of it. I want to give you guys time as well, so that's why I'm taking my time right here to go through it and select. Here we go. Okay. So mine's as clean as it'll get. If you're still selecting yours, pause the video now until you get your full selection, and then rejoin me at this point. Because the next thing we're going to do is add a layer mask to this top layer. Make sure that this top layer is selected. If you have the bottom layer selected and you do a layer mask, it's going to add it to the bottom. You want to make sure it's added to the top. So add a layer mask. And you'll see it's a cutout right here. We've cut out the girl. The white is being shown and the black is hidden. If I hide the background, you can see that right there. We're just going to use select and mask to clean up the area with the hair. So let's go to our mask. If you click on our mask and click properties, you should see the option for select and mask right here. If yours is collapsed, make sure you have this layer mask selected, and then if you go to properties, you could see select and mask right here. So let's go to select and mask, and let's just zoom in to clean up any areas that need to get cleaned up, especially around the hair. The hair is always challenging. As long as we're on the refine edge brush, we can brush in between right here, and it'll clean up our selection where the hair is. So just kind of gradually small brushes. Right there. There we go. That looks better. The refine edge brush just helps clean up those lines right there. There we go. Because that part can be very hard to select with the quick selection tool. But you can see how the background's getting darker as it's cleaning up my edges. See a little bit right there, and even this part right here you can clean up. So go around your edges, clean them up. I'm doing very small clicks. I'm not dragging my brush a lot. I'm just clicking very small. That's looking good. Everything else, legs and shoes are probably fine. It's usually just the upper body and the hair that tend to need fixing. There we go. That looks a lot better. So once you're done, click OK. And now we can see we have a much cleaner selection at this point. Looks much better. Okay, perfect. So now what we're going to do, I'll move this up a little bit so you can see my layers. So we're actually going to convert this into a smart object, and then we're going to add another layer mask. So now that you've created your layer mask with the girl, nice and clean after you selected and mask it, on her layer, right click and do convert to smart object. So it looks like the layer mask is gone, but it's actually still there. We could go in and separate them again, however we don't need to. Now we're going to add another layer mask to it. So it's been converted into a smart object. Come down here and do add a mask again. And now we just have a pure white mask that we're going to brush away. Okay, perfect. Again, if you need to rewatch that part, rewind this video and go back and watch it if you got confused. Now we're going to use our type tool to type our words. So go to your type tool. It's the regular horizontal type is the default one. That's what we need. Click to start typing. In all caps, in big, bold font, type the word jump. Make sure the text color is either white or a very light color. If you pick a different color, it needs to be light. It cannot be a dark color because we're going to add some shadows, and the shadows will not go through if the color is too dark. So if you pick something else, like a light yellow or something, just make sure that it's on the very bright, lighter side of it. Or just stick with all white to keep it simple. Okay. Now, we're going to make our text bigger and cover the girl as big as we possibly can. Right about there. Let's say right about there looks good to me. All right, make sure it covers her body nice, big. Again, bold, thick text. That's how you see the effect in these. I like impact. If you don't pick impact, pick something else, but it must be thick, bold font for the effect to work and look good. Okay, so right now, the text is on top of the girl, because every time we add a new layer, by default, it goes to the top. We just need to move the text layer in between these two, between layer 1 and the background. So just click and drag this layer and bring it down so it's in between the two. Right now, it looks like the text is behind her, which is already a really cool effect. Now we've masked it out to where the text looks like it's in between her and the background. We're going to take it one step further and blend her to look like she's weaving in and out through the text. So if you click on your mask, this is what we did with the blending options where we brushed the mask with black and white. This one is all white, so if we start brushing it with black, it will start hiding parts of the girl's layer. And we're going to brush parts of her to hide behind the text. So let's go to our brush tool. Make sure we're on the brush tool right there. So you have your circle. You can adjust your brush hardness and size. This one you might want to go back and forth. You may not want an entirely soft brush or an entirely hard brush. You might want somewhere in the middle. And make sure your color is set to black right here. So here's your black and white colors. Remember, you can click this tiny little black and white to reset them, and this little arrow will switch them back and forth. You want black in the front because our mask is white, so we need to brush with black to hide. So now we're going to brush parts of her body where we want it to kind of hide behind the letter. So I'm going to start brushing right here. So you see if I brush right here, it's brushing away the mask of the girl, which you can see right here. Here's a little black area that I just brushed, and now I'm brushing it behind the text to make it look like she's weaving through the text. Right here, or even a little bit right here. You can brush the same parts I am, or you can do different parts. If you want to experiment with having your leg go behind the M right there. And then remember, anytime you want to undo, just switch back to white and brush with white to fix it. There you go. So brush with white or black to go back and forth. You can always Control Z to undo, or you can just switch between white and black to change your brushes. All right. Looking good so far. We're going to add one last step to really sell it. Now it looks cool like she's weaving through the text, But now we're going to make her look more like she's right in front of it by adding a burn shadow to the text to make it look like she's in front of it and she's casting a shadow. Again, with Photoshop, we're working on, even though it's obviously Photoshop, we want to make it look realistic, like it is actually happening. So for this one, we need to use the burn tool on the text. However, there's something you need to know first. We need to do a step to rasterize this layer, just like we did in the previous lesson with text blending. There's certain things you can't do to text while it's considered a text layer. We need to first rasterize it, and then we can add some more cool effects to it. So on the text layer, we're going to use a burn tool. So if I use the burn tool, you'll see that it gives me this no sign. If I have my text layer selected and I try to use the burn tool, it's telling me that it won't work. It says you have to rasterize it first. So it'll say that, and it'll say, would you like to rasterize it? You can click OK, or you can just do it yourself. Come over here to the layer, right click, and do rasterize type. Now it converts it into an image layer. So now again, this is no longer text. Now it's considered an image. I can't change the text if I wanted to, but I now can use the burn tool on it. So by default as well, your burn tool is probably set to the, there we go. Sorry, got it? There we go. Let's zoom in a little bit. So by default, your burn tool is set to midtones, and this is telling it either the dark areas, the light areas, or somewhere in the middle is what we're going to use the burn tool on. So if you try to use the burn tool here, you may not notice anything because the text color is so light. There are no midtones. It's looking for darker colors. So we need to change it to highlights. If you change it to highlights, we could start brushing with the burn tool, and you'll see now I'm creating a shadow on the text right here. It's not affecting the girl because I'm on the text layer. Be sure that you're on the text layer to have it show there. So you're just going to make light shadows where the girl is in front of the text. So anywhere that she's in front of the text, we're going to create a little shadow, not too strong. I'm just doing small light clicks like this. She's behind the text right there. I can do it right here. Just very lightly. We don't want to get extreme. I'm just kind of brushing around the edges, very slow light clicks. And again, it's only affecting the text and it's not affecting the girl because she's on a completely different layer. I need to fix that brush right there. And right here as well. There we go. That's looking good. Awesome. So now that burn effect is right here, creating, again, making it look a little bit more realistic, like she's actually in front of the text and casting a shadow. So it looks like she really did jump through these letters. And everything's on its own separate layer. So you can see how it looks when it's all dissected into pieces. And we still have our original, just in case. So that is how you do text weaving. So I want you to do the exact same thing on your remaining exercise files. Take all of these subjects and weave them through text. On this one, number 2, I want you to use the word goal, type the word goal nice and big, and then weave this guy through that. However you like, same thing with this one. Use the word kick, weave him however you like through here. You just make it as big as possible across the subject's body. Nice and big so you can have these cool points where they're like going through letters and out of the other letters. Make it look really cool. Same thing with this one. Use dance and weave it through multiple people. This one you have multiple subjects to weave through, so you can do it however you'd like. Get creative with it. On the last 3, you could do whatever you want. Just type a short 4 or 5 letter word that will fit right here, that fits the theme, and do the same thing. I'll let you come up with your own words for these last 3 options, but do the exact same thing that we just did on this one. You need to first select the subject and add a layer mask. Then you turn it into a smart object and add another mask. Then you add the text and you put the text in between. And then we start brushing the mask of the girl. And lastly, we add a burn shadow. Okay? If you got stuck, go back and watch the video again on the parts on how to do those certain steps. But you can now practice on all of these practice files, the same steps, because this will lead us into our next project. As usual, take a screenshot of your full scenery when you're done and turn it into the assignment for all of the edits that you did. Take screenshots. And I'll see you on the next one. Have fun. Let me know if you have any questions.